Welcome to ITV News Meridian.
Tonight's headlines in the Thames Valley.
Stop Botley West! Stop Botley West!
More than 100 opponents of the Botley West solar farm, which would be the largest in Europe, take their fight to the district council, saying it would decimate the countryside.
Patients in Botley and Kennington are told at a meeting there is hope for their struggling doctors' surgeries after 2 GPs resigned.
You cannot get to a stage where you're going to have 13,000 people haven't got a health service.
I thought it was a waste of time, personally.
Also tonight, a police review after a damning report into the Met found institutional racism, sexism and homophobia. We ask our crime commissioners what's happening here.
And why you're never too old to learn to swim. The adults who are putting embarrassment aside and jumping in. Good evening. Campaigners opposing plans to build Europe's largest solar farm in West Oxfordshire say it's too big and would decimate the countryside. More than 100 protesters gathered outside a council meeting where the proposals have been discussed.
Well, the Botley West solar farm would span 2,500 acres of land on 3 sites north of Woodstock, west of Kidlington and west of Botley. The company behind it says it would power around 330,000 homes. The government will decide if it goes ahead.
Well, Charlotte Brewer-Edney is live at the District City Council in Witney. Clearly some strong local views there about this proposal.
Yes, do not underestimate how passionately people feel about this. As you drive through towns and villages near here, the streets are lined with signs opposing this solar farm. So it was no surprise that more than 120 people turned up at the council meeting today to voice their opposition. So many, in fact, they couldn't all fit inside the chamber. Their message: this solar farm is simply too big.
It's going to devastate and destroy acres and acres of countryside. It's like putting the equivalent of Heathrow Airport over the Greenbelt, and this just has to be a different way of doing things.
This is just too big. We're all pro-solar. We don't want no solar. We want solar on roofs, brownfield sites.
First initial consultation clearly showed residents are not in support of this. The people behind me, people like myself, are not against green energy. Let me just make that very clear. We're just against covering the countryside in bits of plastic and steel.
Well, if built, this solar farm would cover 1,400 hectares of farmland, often in many places coming quite close to where people live, where they walk their dogs, where they exercise. And campaigners say it would change the whole face of communities. And the local MP for Witney, Robert Courts, agrees.
When you're talking about the biggest such thing in Europe on hugely important farmland, then I think this is just something that is too big in scale. So we need to have a conversation as a country about where these developments are put.
Well, developers say that we're in a climate crisis. Oxfordshire is a huge consumer of energy, but not a big producer of one. So they are putting a resource capable of powering 330,000 homes where it's most needed. And they told me it wouldn't look as bad as what campaigners fear.
Well, everyone's concerns are valid and we listen to everyone. But the problem at the moment is we've only shown them the project from above, as if from a satellite photo. And it is very large. From the ground, it will be less large because you will only see glimpses of the panels through gaps in hedges or through the gates, because our landscape designer is ensuring that it fits into the landscape and is hidden as much as possible.
So, Charlotte, what happens now?
Right, well, the council essentially today voted in favour of writing a report that will detail evidence in favour or against, basically explaining what the impact of this solar farm would be for residents and for the environment. And that report would be sent to government, who ultimately are the decision makers here.
The developer didn't put forward the case for the benefits strongly enough, and I think that's a weakness in the case at the moment. So let's see what they do now. Don't forget it was an informal consultation. I think they were just testing the water, and now I think the water hopefully is something they can take notice of.
Well, this is far from over. Another consultation is due later this year, but the government will make the final decision on this.
Charlotte Meridian, thank you very much for that.
Patients in Kennington say they are hopeful a new set of doctors will take over the running of their local GP practice. More than 150 people were at a meeting held to reassure locals after the partners of Botley Medical Centre and its Kennington branch handed in their notice last week.
Well, the partners blamed a national shortage of GPs and an increasing workload. The local health board has 6 months to find a replacement provider for 13,500 patients. Last night, some left the meeting saying they were optimistic, but others said it was a total waste of time. Natalie Verney has more.
As the residents began to arrive, the mood was anxious but hopeful.
Obviously, the practice has been through a really difficult time, and it may be that actually we'll end up with services that meet the needs of local people better.
Some positive news, that's what we're hoping for.
It would be nice to hear something what's going on, won't it?
Yeah.
Botley Medical Centre and its Kennington branch has had a difficult few years. In 2021, it was rated inadequate and then put in special measures. There were concerns over the safety of patients. Things have slowly improved, though, and in October last year, it was rated as good. But now the current partners have handed in their 6-month notice. And last night, it became clear that some people have had enough.
This arrangement with Kennington and Botley does not work.
While some used the meeting to vent their frustrations, the local integrated care board, who are the ultimate decision makers on the future of the practice, wanted to reassure everyone.
Some GPs are really skilled at running practices. Some GPs are very good at their clinical skills. And so what we hope is that some of the practices that are functioning, and there are ones around Oxfordshire, who will be able to use some of their skills to bring Botley and the Kennington sites and be able to attract more GPs to the area.
There was a lot of frustration in the room tonight and many questions. Most people wanted to know exactly how they're going to find a provider to take over these GP practices and fill it with GPs when the current partners have failed. Unfortunately, no guarantees could be given. They're just going to try their best. Others asked what plan B is if they fail. Again, no real detail was given. We were just told there are options. Unfortunately, many people I spoke to left just as frustrated as when they arrived.
I thought it was a waste of time, personally. I think we knew as much when we went in as we do as we're coming out.
I hope that they'll do as they say and have a seamless process, and by September we'll have a new set of doctors. I really do hope that, and everyone hopes that. But I'm not reassured, no, I'm sorry.
I'm optimistic it will be sorted because I can't see, you cannot get to a stage where you're going to have 13,000 people haven't got a health service.
The patient participation group, which is working closely with the ICB, is also optimistic.
I need healthcare facilities to keep me alive. And I'm confident that we are going to get those continuing healthcare facilities for Kennington and for Botley.
The Integrated Care Board is only 1 week into the process. It has promised to keep everyone informed of their progress. Natalie Verney, ITV News.
A drug dealer from Buckinghamshire who crashed his car into a member of the public has been jailed for more than 3 years. 24-year-old Yusuf Elgor from Aylesbury pleaded guilty to supplying cocaine and possessing cannabis.
You're watching ITV News. Meridian coming up. Making sure access to the arts isn't just for the elite. The push to inspire more actors from working class backgrounds.
And in At the Deep End, why more of us are being encouraged to learn to swim.
For more news from around the Thames Valley, just head to itv.com/Meridian. Call us 0808 1010 095. And remember, you can follow us on Facebook, Twitter and on Instagram.
Police and crime commissioners here have been giving their reaction to a damning report into the Met Police that said it was institutionally racist, misogynistic and homophobic.
Hampshire's Donna Jones says the Met needs breaking up. Sussex PCC Katie Bourne says Baroness Casey's review will affect public confidence in police outside of London. She said when the Met sneezes, all other forces catch a cold, meaning the public's perception of the police has been tarnished nationwide.
Well, Thames Valley's Commissioner Matthew Barber said the Met is simply too big and said while he was more confident about the culture that exists in the Thames Valley, no one can be complacent.
Well, joining us now is Hampshire's Donna Jones. This is not a good week, is it, for police forces across the country?
No, it's absolutely not. In fact, it's probably one of the biggest watershed moments in policing since the Macpherson report 30 years ago. It has been a terrible week in policing. Not only have we had the tragedy of Sarah Everard following the incidents with Wayne Couzens, then David Carrick and his 14 victims. Now we've got institutional problems across the Metropolitan Police Service, which is the biggest police force in the country, and that has caused significant public confidence problems.
Matthew Barber says he's confident about the Thames Valley force. How confident are you that if a similar study was done on the Hampshire force, you would fare any better?
Well, we would definitely fare better. But I think Matthew Barber, the PCC for Thames Valley, has got a good point. All police forces will have issues like this, but police forces should be judged on how they deal with those issues. You will always get bad people that work in every profession, from teaching, medicine, and also in policing. It's about how police forces deal through their police standards departments and how quickly they get bad people out of the force, get them suspended and or sacked for gross misconduct.
So what do you think is a solution then? Some have suggested re-vetting. Do you think that's the answer?
No, I don't. I think vetting is a misnomer completely. I think vetting gives you a snapshot in time of someone's integrity on day one, often when they are permitted entry into a police force, when they're recruited. Now, there is going to be re-vetting that goes on regularly. We already vet every 3 years in Hampshire and across the country, and that's right and proper. But for me, the vetting is a misnomer. What we need to be doing is focusing on putting more staff into police standards departments. We need anti-corruption units to have enough capacity to be working on reactive and proactive work. And we need to make sure that we are revisiting the policing protocol for chief constables so they can sack people quicker when they're not happy.
But do you have the funding to do that, though?
We do. We absolutely do. And this should always be a priority for any police and crime commissioner and for any chief constable. Now, I preside over a £430 million budget in Hampshire and the Isle of Wight. I will always make money for my chief constable to deal with issues of corruption and bad practice. But I am confident that here in Hampshire and the Isle of Wight, and in fact our surrounding forces, that we do not have the issues on the scale of the Metropolitan Police Service. And that's simply because of their size. They're just too big.
OK, in terms of the size of the Met, then what needs to happen? Just break them up and make more series of smaller forces?
If I was presiding over this, if I was the Home Secretary, I'd probably be asking for a report to look at with a steer at 4 police forces, North, East, South and West London. And therefore you then have people at the top of those organisations with a much more penetrative view of being able to get into and change the culture in those police forces. At the moment, people are able to hide in uniform in the Metropolitan Police Service because it's just so large and it's been going on for years. If these were recent issues, you'd perhaps give them more the benefit of the doubt. But these things have been going on for decades, and we need to now all be talking about when enough really is enough.
One issue, of course, is about representation, about the force reflecting the people that it serves. Are you comfortable where Hampshire sits in terms of representation?
Well, yes, we're getting better, but all police forces in the country are struggling to recruit people to be truly reflective of the mixed demographics that we have. So particularly people from BAME communities. We do really struggle, as do all police forces in England and Wales, to recruit black police officers. We really do need more of that. Asian police officers, we have seen a good increase. That pipeline is healthy and that's great, but we really do need to make sure that we are representing all sections of society, and we have really concerted efforts to do that.
OK, well, we have to leave it there. Thank you very much for talking to us on the programme. Donna Jones, thank you.
Well, Baroness Casey, who wrote the report, has been talking to MPs at Westminster today, and it dominated Prime Minister's questions.
Let's go live to our political correspondent, Phil Hornby. Phil, are MPs, I presume, worried that some of the problems that are in the Met are also present in other forces as well?
Yeah, I think they are, Matt. And despite the reassurances we get from the police and crime commissioners, there is a feeling amongst MPs that some of the culture and some of the problems of the Metropolitan Police cannot be exclusive to London. They must be shared by other forces. This is what was said at Prime Minister's questions today.
Nobody reading the Casey report can be left in any doubt about how serious this is, and doubt for a second that it's restricted to the Met.
All police forces are in the process of checking their officers against the Police National Database, and in weeks, Her Majesty's Independent Inspectorate will report back on their re-inspection of all forces vetting procedures.
Well, as you said, this afternoon, Baroness Casey, the author of that devastating report about the Met, was questioned by MPs, among them the Sussex MP Tim Lawton. I spoke to him just after the hearing finished.
I'm sure this problem is not limited to the Met. It's just because the Met is the largest police force by far that these problems are concentrated. And let's remember the vast majority of police officers do a fantastic job day in, day out. But there are too many who don't, and the structure of the system is allowing them to get away with this bad conduct, which is in nobody's interest.
And a much-needed reminder tonight that there are many good officers in the police force. MPs today have been marking the 6th anniversary of the murder of PC Keith Palmer. He was the policeman who was killed trying to protect the House of Commons from a terrorist attack. Remember, the Bournemouth East MP Tobias Elwood tried to save his life, but PC Palmer died in the line of duty.
Phil, we have to leave it there for now. Thank you.
And the ITV Evening News continues with the national and international news at 6:30. With all the details, here's Mary Nightingale.
Coming up on the programme, Boris Johnson's Partygate grilling.
You didn't say that we did every effort to comply with the guidance of the House of Commons, and you didn't say that...
No, I'm saying that we followed the guidance completely.
In what could be the defining afternoon of his political career, the former PM is facing questions over whether he deliberately misled Parliament. We'll bring you the key moments from the hearing as well as all the reaction. Also on the programme tonight, as food prices continue to rise, just when will pressure on households finally ease? And new figures show the scale of sewage dumped in the country's rivers. Do join me for those stories and more at 6:30.
Now, last night we told you of a shortage of people from working class backgrounds working in the arts. It's a problem they fear will prevent really important stories from being told.
Well, the percentage of people employed in the sector from less privileged backgrounds has halved in the last 4 decades.
Well, we've already seen some of the work taking place in arts and culture to reduce the class divide. And tonight, in the second part of our series, James Webster's been looking at the prospects for young actors from poorer backgrounds.
Josh's mum was proper sweet, to be honest. She let me crash on the sofa every so often.
Carl Connolly is just starting out on his career as an actor, but he already fears that his background could make that dream harder to achieve.
As someone from a working class background, it sometimes feels daunting and quite intimidating. I think as well there's a lot of talk about the right place and the right time, and for a lot of us, especially in the working class, sometimes that right place costs money to get to, and a lot of the time that right time needs to be used to work a little bit extra at something else to put food on the table and to pay your rent.
When so many of our most celebrated actors like Botley West and Olivia Colman are privately educated, it's easy to see why those from less privileged backgrounds worry about being a success. Eddie Redmayne famously studied at Eton, and recent research found more than half of those working in the UK's screen industries are considered to be from a privileged background. In purely creative roles like writers, producers and directors, that rises to 61%.
Those jobs in culture and creative industries are some of the most elite, the most posh, basically. This has an impact on what people think is a good representation, what people think is a good story, and it means that often working class stories can end up as quite cliched.
I ain't talking to you. Do you understand?
The actor Joe Sims, known for his role in Broadchurch, filmed in Dorset, has started his own production company aimed at opening doors for young people.
I'm keen to show other working class kids that there is a route in, to be aspirational and not just to take no for an answer. If there's something burning deep inside you and you want to do something, then absolutely go for it and reach out, ask for help, because those answers are out there. But unfortunately, in certain areas of the UK, talent's everywhere but opportunity is not.
I belong neither here
nor there.
Drama classes can cost hundreds of pounds a year.
So Lamar, you take the guitar book to Ingvar first.
So charities like this one provide theatre workshops in schools and put on performances where young actors can showcase their talents.
There's not many opportunities for artists like us who have somewhere to go to create things or people to go to help with getting to where we want to be.
But so the big aspiration is to be a director by the end of it, but I need to become the best actor first before I reach that point.
Things like theatre groups, you have to pay for them, and sometimes if you don't have the means to pay for them, you don't get that experience.
The entertainment industry and the cultural industry is going to be quite boring if it's only particular stories that are being heard. It's really important that we get to hear everybody's stories. And that there's proper representation across the whole sector. So now more than ever, with the cost of living crisis, it's really important that we ensure people have opportunities.
The opportunities here also extend behind the scenes into music and prop making. Just some of the many roles they are determined to prove should not be beyond anyone's reach. James Webster, ITV News.
Now let's get some sports. Sarah joins us in the studio. Sarah, good evening.
Thank you, Matt. Well, we're going to start in the pool tonight because new research suggests that many adults who didn't learn to swim as children are simply too nervous to learn now. And the numbers of those shying away from the water are higher among ethnically diverse communities. The Swim England research details a number of stigmas and misconceptions, including the need to wear armbands as an adult. So we've been to meet two swimmers keen to encourage others to take the plunge.
Zero Accounting Software sponsors ITV Regional Sports Report.
Osman Jatta didn't learn to swim as a child, and it wasn't until a recent holiday in Greece that the 21-year-old decided he was missing out. Missing out on fun with friends, but also aware he'd be unable to help if anyone got into difficulty in the water.
When I was initially learning, it was just something that I found real difficult. So all my other kids were picking up real quick, and I was always to the side, learning the basics, so then I had to stay afloat, stay on my back, and I thought if I can't do this now when everyone else is progressing along, I thought, let me just leave it to someone else. As you go on holiday, I'm sitting by the side of the pool, everyone's swimming, and I'm thinking wow, it's just me, you can't swim. So it's a bit of a kind of a shocking experience. I thought, give it a shot, why not?
Osman's chosen sport is boxing. He trains hard and competes alongside a computer studies course. His strength in the ring, though, has not until now been transferred to the pool.
As an adult, I find it is quite difficult. I think instructor always says because I know my body is, I'm a bit bigger as well, so I'm going to find basics more difficult to grasp. But it is satisfying as you start to see stuff progressing, start to feel more comfortable. Your head going on the water, you come out, you don't feel too panicking, anything like that. So it is a nice feeling on. If anything bad does happen, I can always feel a little bit more comfortable.
And Osman's teacher is a perfect fit. Steph Parry only learnt to swim herself as an adult. The death by drowning of a child in her family meant she was largely kept away from water. Now, though, Steph is teaching others the life skill.
Really nice to be able to get adults, when they then turn around and say to me that they've taken their grandchildren swimming or they've been with their children swimming, and even just to get over the fear of getting in the water and having to play with them. It is a really lovely experience.
So with research suggesting more than half of adults believe swimming lessons are intimidating, it's a view Osman and Steph are keen to dispel.
I don't feel any stigma, there's always adults around, I see kids swimming, but I don't really feel bad coming here.
Don't worry at all, we're here trained as experts, we will do everything we can to help and support. I get in the water to teach and literally hold hands where needed. It's taking that first step, getting over that initial fear, because once you get in, you'll realise that it's absolutely fantastic and you really do enjoy it.
And it's one learning experience where you definitely won't go straight in at the deep end. Well done to them both. It was great to meet them. Right, on to football now, and Crawley Town are still a little too close for comfort to the foot of League Two. They did, though, earn what could be a crucial point last night from the visit of Doncaster Rovers. Substitute Rafiq Khalil rescued a point for his team with this late goal, and Crawley now sit 2 points off relegation. And in the FA Cup, Brighton's women are following in the footsteps of their male counterparts, having also drawn Manchester United in the semi-finals of the competition. They'll play them away from home, having seen off Birmingham City on Sunday. They're hoping to reach the final for the first time in the club's history. Wouldn't that be fantastic? And that semi-final match will take place on Sunday, the 16th of April.
Yes, Sarah, that's
What's
brilliant.
your prediction? Do you think we can do it?
Both of them will go through, men and women.
Do you
Fingers
think?
crossed.
Wow,
yeah.
that was a brave, bold. No messing
well, you
about.
heard it first here. Definitely
Sarah,
happened now.
Thank you. Right, how did Pip describe the weather forecast in the office earlier?
Dismal.
The most dismal March on record. It's not good, is it? Let's get a check on the full forecast. Here's
Can only
Pip.
improve.
Hopefully.
Feels like home, whatever the weather. Valent Boilers and Heat Pumps sponsors ITV Meridian Weather.
So all looking pretty unsettled as we head through the next few days. Showers or longer spells of rain, quite blustery winds as well, but for the time being at least, it remains largely on the mild side. Showers out there at the moment, and in fact a fairly squally band of showers set to sweep its way eastwards through the latter part of this evening. Once it clears through, we'll be left with much drier conditions, and even with the clearing skies, we'll have enough of a breeze to keep the temperatures up, so it should be another relatively mild and frost-free night all round. Tomorrow morning, sunny spells and scattered showers from the word go. Again, some of those showers possibly on the heavy side, maybe even the odd rumble of thunder. And then as we head into the afternoon, all change again as we see thickening cloud and an area of more persistent rain nudging its way northwards. Temperatures on the face of it, not too bad, 13-14 Celsius the high for many of us. But with the cloudy skies, the rain and that brisk breeze, it will feel somewhat fresher. High tide times for tomorrow, then just the one there for both Southampton and Ventnor, a touch before midday. And then looking ahead, well, a cloudy, wet and rather windy end to the day tomorrow. That rain clears off the scene overnight into Friday. Friday itself set to be a day of sunny spells and blustery showers, and that will set the tone as we head into the weekend, remaining fairly changeable. By the time we get to Monday though, hints of something drier, albeit a little chillier with it too. I'll see you later. Bye-bye.
Valent sponsors ITV Meridian Weather.
It's really not a lot to write home about, is it?
It's not improving anytime soon, is it, really, unfortunately?
Good. We will try maybe tomorrow for better weather. That is it from us for the time being. The ITV Evening News with Mary Nightingale is next.
For now, from the whole team here at ITV Meridian, thank you so much for watching. We'll see you tomorrow. Until then, good night.
Bye-bye.